Good morning, Nelson County, and welcome to our 13th episode of the Community Brew Live. We are so excited. This morning we have a super special panel of our impossible principals, and I can't wait to kick off this conversation. So welcome everyone. Say hello over in the chat box, and we will get started.
Awesome. Thanks, Brooke. So I'm super excited about this morning. This is a group of people that we have not had on yet, so I'm excited to see this come to life. And really, we wanted to take a day to kind of step back and with each of our principals, just kind of reflect a little bit on this NTI process. We know that it's been a different way of doing school, and that we'd be in a world of hurt if we didn't at least take a step back and really celebrate the work that's going on and allow ourselves to learn from the process. So I have, I think, let's see, 8 of our principals, something like that, on, and we may have a couple more jump in, but excited about the conversation this morning. So let's get started. I want to take a little bit of time. We usually start most of our meetings really celebrating the work that's going on across our district. So, in the spirit of that, I would love for us to take a little bit of time for you guys just to celebrate some of the work that's going on in your building, in your school, and some of the things that you're seeing through this NTI process. So, whoever wants to start.
I don't mind to start. At the beginning of this process, we talked about what does it mean to be a caretaker through this extended NTI journey. And I think just the work of teachers and educators all around our district and really around our nation as far as caretakers is pretty amazing. I think this has really proved that educators and teachers are very resilient, because just the way that people have been so very creative and still finding ways to connect to their kids, whether it's parades or dropping things on doorsteps, or having a 30-minute coaching conversation with a grandparent who's trying to get their kid logged onto the computer. It's pretty powerful, and it's definitely been very touching and should be celebrated for all educators.
Yeah, I think to compound on kind of what Haley said is this idea of we're learning that content really isn't necessarily the thing that is most important. It's that relationship and maintaining some sense of normalcy is not even the right word, because in no way, shape, or form is what we're doing normal. Like, we did not start out the school year saying like, oh, we're going to be district learning for the next 2 months of school. But I think celebrating the fact that we constantly have teachers that are thinking anew about, how do I reach out to this family? How do I connect to this family? How do I give them what they need? And we have so many teachers in our own school district that are parents as well. So not only are they really working towards advancing the learning at their own schools, but they're really working towards shepherding and stewarding the learning for everybody else, like the 2 individuals or 3 individuals that they may have in their own family. So I think that's really an important thing to celebrate.
I think that this was something that, of course, nobody saw coming, and the way that our school community rallied around and just made things happen for families and for students, and the way they have just made the impossible possible here really in a short turnaround time has been remarkable. And I think that it has taken all people at the table from their different areas and their different gifts to make this kind of a magical time within a very non-magical time. This is hard, this is different, but we've proven, and our people, the way they've come together, have proven that there's nothing we can't do when we're working together. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, I'll jump in, and obviously, just echoing what's already been said. Our teachers, what they did to launch this new NTI system is incredible. But also, you think about popular culture. This whole phenomenon has changed how we view teaching. You look at the memes that are being out on social media about people teaching their kids at home, and I think that I think it's worth celebrating. And we have a wonderful community here in Nelson County. We've always been supported in our schools, but I think that outside of this, I expect and I hope that there's more appreciation that's going to be born for teachers and what goes on in the school every single day. I think a lot of parents are seeing what kids, the stress that trying to learn a new skill brings, and they're experiencing that at home. And so I think there's a lot more appreciation for what our teachers do, and they deserve a lot of credit. And so I think that's something that across our nation, not just in Nelson County, that we're learning about how much skill it takes to teach somebody something. I think that's going to be appreciated and celebrated even more. And I think that's something that we're learning through this process. And so I think it's just celebrating our profession and understanding that we have really, really skilled people in the classroom that have a very important job and living out with serious purpose. So that's what I'll celebrate.
Let me hop over to the chat real quick. We've got lots of conversations happening over there. Tiffany Clark celebrates individual connections with all kids, adapting teaching to individual students now more than ever. Molly Medley at Foster Heights, she's talking about teachers going above and beyond to meet the needs of kids and families. Kelsey Berryman chimed in too with kind of along the same lines, individual phone calls with families, and basically letting them know they're not alone in this. Christy Lynch from OKH popped in. She says, Karen Connect every day, making those visual connections with our kids, talking to parents in the Karen Connect, and establishing those authentic relationships. And I will tell you guys right now, just from my own perspective, I want to just celebrate you guys as, just a team, a leadership team, because I've got a lot of friends in a lot of different places that aren't Nelson County schools. And, everybody's doing the best they can, but it is truly inspiring to watch the magic that is taking place in your schools. And that's a reflection of your leadership. And I just am so proud to work in Nelson County and you guys just as the leaders of these buildings. It is just really special stuff. So that's my own little 2 cent celebration.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is everybody has acknowledged, from the governor down to teachers, that NTI was never meant to be a long-term solution, right? It was meant to be a stopgap so that schools didn't have to go till the middle of June when they had snow days. And I think the power of teachers and the power of education is that we're so used to adapting, right? I mean, every day is something different. Every day is a different experience, a different issue, a different um, thing that comes up. And I think, as I look on the work that's happening across our district, I think, we can largely attribute that to um, really all of us continuing to reimagine, like, what is the purpose of school and what does it mean to be a community. So, um, those two questions have really been something that we've been stuck on for a while, and it's a good stuck, right? Because I think you can always explore, what does it mean to be a community and what is the purpose of school. Those questions never really go away, and I think we've learned a lot about both of those things in the context of NTI, because I think we would have said that community was togetherness. Well, when you're quarantined, what does that look like, and how does that continue to occur? So I want to take just a little bit of time for us to explore those questions in the context of um, this COVID-19 coronavirus quarantine world, right? So let's start with really the nature of community. So what are we learning about the nature of community since we've been in NTI and we've been in quarantine and this type of experience? So I'll throw that question out.
This. Sorry, Mark. You want to go first? I just want to say that for our littles at the ELC, community has really blossomed. Although we're in this sense of we have to be isolated, we're actually probably closer than we've ever been before. And the reason being is because we have parents that are so involved with their children's education and really reaching out to the teachers, and the teachers communicating daily with the parents, and really helping those families through this time. And so there is a big sense of community and connection within our school, really helping all of us through this time and helping our littles succeed even at home. And so I've been really lucky to be a part of a lot of the different conversations that my parents have had with our faculty, and it's just been beautiful.
I think it also brings to light like the importance of culture building in the initial part of the year. Like if we didn't spend, if we can, as a school district, if we didn't invest fully in like caretaking experiences for kids, we would struggle right now because you have to have some sort of foundation and some sort of like like relevance to continue into those things. And I think what Teresa talks about is really powerful. Is like in terms of at our house, one of us is an educator, but I think about places in Nelson County where parents are not teachers. And then how do we become facilitators of learning and facilitators of resources so that parents can then be re-empowered to like take responsibility for their kids' education? And what does that partnership look like as we come back to school? There's that popular meme or popular thing that comes around, the motivational poster that talks about like, I don't know what normal is. I don't know what part of normal I want to go back to. That's a powerful question for us to ask and to continue to ask is what is our new normal after this? What have we learned and how can we continue to move it forward?
I think there are two parts when I think about what this question about community. And the first one I've already kind of touched on. It's that everybody brings their different gifts, and that's how we made this happen. And maybe I want to believe that from the outside it looks like it was seamless and it was easy to pull it together, but it took everybody from their little place and their unique special set of gifts to really make this look like we made some magic. But the other side of that, I think as humans, we crave and we desire that sense of community. And so, the first thing we did is we set up our family groups, which are our Care and Connects, for every single day at a particular time in the morning. And I'm connected to one of those. And so every morning there are kids on there probably 45 minutes before they need to be at a time we thought, they're still going to be sleeping in, but they're craving that. That is probably the best part of the day for us. The best part of the day for them is that connection to one another. That's what they miss in conversations with them through this venue. That's what they miss. And I think that it's going to add this whole new level of appreciation for being a part of a community, being that unique and special part, and what other people bring to that community. We're craving it. Our kids are craving it. Our families are craving it. As individual human beings, we're all craving it because we have been isolated physically from one another, and the digital world's allowed us some access, but it's huge and it's important and it's bigger than we even imagined.
So I'll start with a celebration. I missed that at the beginning. Our teachers, I've always known that they cared very much for our students, but it has really come across in the past few weeks. They care very deeply for our students. To watch that then transition to now how much they deeply care about our parents. And I'd also like to celebrate our parents as they are more involved, maybe now than they've ever been, and really want their children to perform well, and they're doing all that they can to support them in that. But what I've noticed about community during this particular time is some of our students who weren't excelling in the real classroom are becoming so much more involved in the virtual classroom. And so, like, my question as we think about, when we do transition back to a regular classroom is what are we missing from the regular classroom to that virtual classroom that allows some kiddos to feel so comfortable that they really are sharing who they are. They're sharing their gifts. They're participating in a way that they never have before. So, like, how do we bring that back to the classroom when we do re-enter? Because it has been some of the kiddos, it's just surprising and awesome at the same time. I don't want that to go away.
Yeah, I think a lot of the way in which that we look at community really has started at the very beginning of the year, when all of our schools have really adopted our priorities and what our purpose was and what values that we have instilled in our staff and our students. And I think being transparent and really having the community and our parents truly a part of those conversations has really lent itself to a sense of belonging for everyone. During this time, just like some of the rest of us have said, culture has been a huge piece to this, and really being able to have the conversations that we need to have with our parents and with our family members, and for the openness for them to feel as though they can contact us as well as us contacting them, to know that we're all on the same page. So, kudos to all of the schools who have, been at the forefront doing the work that is necessary since the beginning of the school year, and really building on that because it really says a lot about Nelson County in general and our families and the commitment that we have to our students.
Yeah, I think you guys hit on this a lot. It's like sometimes we think about this question, like, what does it mean to be a community? And we think about our teachers and our students and our classrooms. And sometimes we even think about it in the context of our teachers and our students, like going to places in our community and building that relationship. I think this has forced us to, like, what does it look like for parents to be a part of that community? Um, because like they're on the forefront now. And I saw a tweet last night, um, and I don't remember who it was by, but it said something along the lines of, if schools can figure out how to harness parental involvement that's currently taking place in school and leverage that towards the other school, like the when school gets back to where it has been, the impact on school will be forever changed. And I think that's so true. That's such a group that I think we just kind of take for granted with community sometimes. Like, yeah, they exist, but they send their kids to us, and we're trying to build community. I think I saw in the chat where Christy Lynch from OKH's backpack leader talked about like parents popping into the Care and Connect time, like with their kids, and how it might mortify a middle schooler that their parents doing that, but it's a really cool aspect to that experience. So, Brooke, anything else on the chat before we transition to this next part?
Yeah, so I mean, I just wanted to make sure we got Christy's comment right because I thought that was really powerful too. Kelsey says that she's seen the value of caretaking come alive during this time for our students who are reaching out to show care and gratitude for community and leaders. Mickey Rogers over in Bloomfield, bringing all members of the table, even virtually, and building relationships in the community. So definitely, everybody in the chat is kind of on the same page with you on that conversation. Powerful stuff.
Yeah, I think we're always learning about the nature of community, and this time's no different. So, as we think about the purpose of school, really, I think that's maybe shifted more than we probably even realize, um, just as we've gone from brick and mortar 7 hours a day to this whole virtual NTI experience. So as we think about the purpose of school, um, in the context of what we're learning from being in quarantine, what are some things that have come up for you all in your work?
I'll speak to that a bit. I think when we think about the purpose of school, that's such a general thing because schools continuously just they meet the need of, if a child needs to know something, to learn something that's going to benefit them in their future with a skill or a competency, we meet that need. If a child needs a relationship with a teacher, a safe place, that a guidance counselor to talk to, we meet that need. If they need uh, involvement in a club or organization so they can grow as an individual, we meet that need. And I think what this has made me reflect on a lot is, I was in school when 9/11 happened. And, I think one thing that just really is obvious to me is that school help students make sense of the changing world around them. None of us predicted in August that this was going to happen this year, that we were going to face this challenge. The world is so unpredictable. We think about generations, when presidents have been assassinated, or 9/11, or the Challenger blowing space. All these things that happen that make children question their lives. I think about anytime we've had a death in our family, especially when I was a student. It makes you question your own mortality. Makes you question the world around you. How am I going to move forward? What's new normal going to look like? And I think kids mull over these questions. And right now, schools through Care and Connect, and just having those connections continuing, we're helping kids make sense of the world. And I think since the world's ever changing, ever evolving, I think it's really, really powerful that we have educators are able to step up and have those conversations with students, because this is going to change our world. It's going to be different forever. Even when we get back to the new normal, there's going to be some things that operate a little bit different. We think about things a little bit differently because of this. And so I think making sense of the world around us is just something that's so much more obvious to me now.
Yeah, Randy, I like that. Craig Rochelle has a leadership podcast that we listen to, and we send it out to you guys sometimes. And I think in his last one, he makes the comment that someone told him when he got into leadership. So he's I think 50 something now. He's been in leadership for 30, 40 years, 30 years, something like that. And they told him, they said, every 10 years, there will be some type of event that will radically kind of reshift the world. So he talked about, like, he was a pastor in Oklahoma City when the Oklahoma City bombing happened, and then 7 or 8 years later was 9/11, and then 8 or 9 years after that was the economic crash of 2009, 10, that area, and then now it's quarantine, right? Like, there's these things that come up, and I think you're exactly right. Like, how do we engage kids through these big questions and these thoughts that allow them to explore the world through these different mechanisms? I appreciate that. What are some other thoughts around the purpose?
We talked about that a little bit at the beginning too. I think when we first started this process and we thought, oh, well, maybe it's just a week or maybe it's just 2 weeks, we looked at it in a certain way as far as, oh, we've got to get all this in. We don't want our kids to miss a beat. And then we kind of had to pump the brakes and say, okay, like, there are other things that are more important right now that our kids need to take away from this. Our kids are really living history right now. So just having them look at this experience and truly think about, okay, what does it mean to be a problem solver right now? What does it mean to be a caretaker right now? There's a lot of learning that can come from that. So just really giving ourselves as educators permission to back away from that traditional content-driven education and really take advantage of this time to really teach our kids about caretaking and problem solving and those skills that are most important.
I'll hop in on the chat real quick. Miss Kathy Walker, she made a powerful statement. She said, the big takeaway from all of this is that we are realizing that school is truly more than student teacher. It is the entire community, and it takes all of us to experience it correctly. So, Alyssa Wilkinson also kind of hopped in on that. She said, such a complex answer, but I think it's becoming clear that the purpose of school is that schools serve the whole child, not just the academic needs, but caregiving and connection needs as well. So,
I think what everybody's been kind of talking about is this question of relevance. So, like, when we talk about, like, the purpose of school, we're seeing, like, as we explore the new normal, how we deliver instruction and how we continue to, like, explore teaching and learning is, like, is this necessary? And in what way can we do this in a way that makes kids experience something completely different?
Yeah, one of the I just put this in the chat. There's Greg McKeon wrote this book called Essentialism, where really he talks about, like, you've seen these waves of the world, like minimalism and these different things, and like his kind of take is it's not about like doing less or doing more or whatever. It's about doing like what's essential, like what has to be done. And I think like that's probably the one thing that this has taught me around this purpose of school question is like, and Haley, I think you were hitting on this, like we fill 7 hours of a kid's day because kids are with us for 7 hours, right? You can't just say, well, we're not going to have 7 hours. Like it doesn't work that way. But I think like what this has taught us is like what are the things that really matter if you strip away everything else, like the essential stuff, what is it? And I think we've started to see like those caretaking experiences, they're essential, right? Like kids having space to explore questions and big things and this reading and writing conversation. And like those are the things that when you strip away the other stuff, like those are some things that still exist. So I appreciate the thoughts on that, and I think it's a that's a good reminder for us as we go back to school. It's like, are we just filling 7 hours of the day, or are we really engaged in these transformative experiences for kids that be having for 7 hours? So how do we use that time the best way that we can? Any other thoughts before we transition to the last piece here from the chat or from one of you guys? It's still awkward silence, even if you're on the computer screen sometimes. So we have about 3 minutes left, and we haven't typically done this um, on the community brew, but I think you guys would be a good group because this is kind of a routine when we get together for us to do this, and I would invite the chat to do it as well. But I'd like for us to share gratitude, and it doesn't necessarily have to be with someone in this chat. It could be with someone in your school building, but the rules of gratitude are that it does have to be personal, right? It can't just be your teachers or your school. It has to be a personal gratitude. So I would invite the chat to participate as well. So we'll take the last couple minutes to do that work and really think about who are some people to celebrate in our schools.
I want to celebrate LaDonna Akridge. She's just done a ton of work. She's really where the rubber meets the road for BMS. She's making sure students have access to their work, communicate with families, been an incredible caretaker. And also Steve Mahoney, our Frisk leader in Bloomfield. We have a hub meeting at 9 o'clock, and Steve has done a great job of not only coordinating our meals, but just adding humor. And so, like one morning, Steve was in his bathtub. You couldn't see anything from like here up, but he did the meeting from his bathtub. There's usually a rubber duck involved, but he's just adding humor throughout this process to create humanity. And Stephanie could talk to that too, because Steve's crazy, and he's just taught us the value of having fun during this. And so, in honor of Steve, I'm gonna tell a really cheesy dad joke really quick. All right, what's the difference in people from Dubai and people from Abu Dhabi? People from Dubai don't really like the Flintstones, but people from Abu Dhabi do. Thanks, Steve. You're an inspiration.
I mean, I'm not sure he wants to follow that, but someone.
I was going to ask Brooke to cut him off.
Well, I don't have a dad joke for mine, but I did want to just give gratitude to Mr. Mike. He's the bus driver who's leading our hub, and he's done an amazing job of making sure that all of our kids' needs are met, but at the same time, really thinking about care and safety of our bus drivers. So he does an amazing job when he's driving the bus, but he's done an amazing job as a leader in this situation too. So big gratitude to him.
I want to say there are so many people I could give gratitude to, but Robin McCoy is our community table leader, and she has just been Robin. She's brought such a sense of calm and compassion and leadership to our particular community table, and I really want to shout out some gratitude to her. We're grateful to have her.
Last one, somebody.
I'll give a shout out to Emmy Hoyes. She's consistently working to help our kiddos transition to our building from First Step still, even though that they're not really meeting right now. And she came in even yesterday to make sure that she had her materials ready for all of our ARC meetings that are happening on Friday, and just making sure that we are, she's caretaking for those kids from home, and reaching out to those parents and making sure that their needs are met.
Awesome. Well, for us to end here real quick, I did see this. Carla said this on the chat, and I do want to share publicly some gratitude. Denise Bobbitt, she's one of our favorite human beings in the world. She's great. And Denise, one of the things that Denise does with zero publicity is every time there is a holiday of some sort, I think my kids, Carla, G, the McCoys, like the kids that have parents that work at central office, she always gets them like a little book or something that she gets them a little gift, which they love. You know, kids love opening gifts. And she has every week she's continued that. She sent like coloring sheets for them and stickers, and my boys have really enjoyed that. She's just a great caretaker for our central office community. So um, I know she was watching this morning. I know my boys really, really appreciate Miss Denise. So my challenge to you guys today is to share that gratitude with somebody. We shared a lot in the chat, but be very intentional today about sharing that with people. Excited to see the work continue to unfold. So principals, thank you guys for your work today. Excited about the future. Thanks, guys.
All right, well, I'm going to close us out today. So if you all are still hanging on, you're still watching, I know we got 34 of us still hanging on to the last second out there. So shout out to you. You're in it to win it. I just, take a second, hit the like button on this video, and share gratitude with our principals because they are rock stars, and I'm so appreciative of them, as I said earlier. But show them some love over there. And I'm going to tell y'all right now, we have quite the lineup in store for you all here on the Community Brew Live for the next couple of weeks. So we are absolutely thrilled to bring you some fun surprises tomorrow and the rest of this week. And then I think you're going to start to see more kids on the Community Brew Live. I'm just going to throw that out there. So get excited, and we will see you back here tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m.